I've helped over 200 different businesses automate their operations and saved thousands of hours for my clients, including Camillo, who has 150,000 subscribers on YouTube, who we helped save 10 hours per week with our project management and CRM systems for his UGC agency. If you're looking to fully automate your agency in 2025, you're in the right place, because in this video, I'm going to give you everything that you need so that you can stop wasting time on repetitive tasks and focus all of your time on sales and generating content for your customers. By the end of this video, you'll be able to solve basically any of your operational bottlenecks extremely fast. So who am I? My name is Sheni Salami. I run an operations and automations agency, and I've coached at Client Ascension, which is one of the biggest coaching communities out there for B2B businesses. At my agency, Icarus Growth, we build operating systems and CRMs for different companies so that they can scale infinitely with basically zero bottlenecks. In this video, we're going to be using Make, but even if you use Zapier, you'll be able to follow along. So with that out of the way, let's get started. Okay, so this video is going to describe everything that you need to know about Make for business owners of all levels, zero fluff, practical stuff only. By the end of this video, you're going to be 100% certain in your ability to make an automation inside of make.com, no matter how simple it is, because you're going to understand variables, modules, if statements, and exactly how to make things work. So let's just quickly, before we even start on that, just end the Make versus Zapier debate in one fell swoop. And I'm going to do that with a very easy to look at screenshot. So if you need 10,000 tasks per month inside of Zapier, you'll be spending $193 a month. The same thing inside of Make is $18 a month. So you already know exactly what is important and exactly what the price is for what you're getting. Now, there's still, like a reason as to why you would use Zapier versus Make. There's still certain things that Zapier does better than others, but I'm going to disprove even those right now with these. So Zapier has a few more built-in apps, but with Make, you can do more with those apps in general. For example, you can't create, even to this day, from what I last remember, Slack channels, private Slack channels using Zapier. You can only do that with Make, with what's available to you with Make's direct modules. Zapier makes you eat unnecessary credits to do very simple functions, but Make's functions are all free and they can get very, very intuitive. Things like if statements, you have to pay to do if statements, which doesn't make any sense. Zapier is simpler, but Make actually provides more control, and the simplicity of Zapier makes it harder to really tackle what low code is, because they contort the idea of automations so much so for simplicity that you actually remove the 10 or 20% of extra information that you need to know to be able to translate what you know into actual low code. Because when you look at Zapier and you're making the automations that you're making, you can very, very easily get confused about everything that doesn't lay outside of Zapier's terms. But when you start to use things like Make, it makes it easier for you to understand code when you just look at it because of the way that Make is laid out. So I'm going to very, very quickly just hover over all of the pages inside of Make when you get to the home screen. For example, this organization page just shows you stuff about your plan. If you have the current plan, you're on, the core plan, for example, it shows you how many operations you have, shows you how much data or memory that you have left to use across your automations, which is only really important if you're pushing large audio and video files across your automations. So for you short form and content people and your podcasters who are using transcription services on make.com, this is the only thing or the only time that's important for you. If you have 5 gigabytes and it keeps on getting used up for some reason, even though your operations are being used up, it's because you've run out of data. So you just upgrade your operations and you get more data, simple as. Then you have auto purchasing operations. So if your automations, you hit your 10,000 limit or your 20,000 limit and you don't want your operations or your automations to stop, then you would turn this on and it would bill you for an extra 10K just when you hit your limit. Then we have the user panel here. You can invite users ad nauseum, and this is helpful because signing in and out of Make can be kind of annoying. Then we have the connections. These are only really needed for when you need to reauthorize if there's a problem with a connection inside of one of your accounts. For example, Google Drive, Gmail, and Google Docs, Google Sheets. Sometimes they'll just fail to verify and will need reauthorization. So you would just go into this connections bit here, search for it, and then click the reauthorize button to log back in again. You basically won't need any of these either. So devices, data stores, data structures, custom apps, most of them are irrelevant when you're starting out. Remember, we're business people here, we're not developers. Like, it doesn't matter what you use as long as the thing works, and there are very simple alternatives for almost all jobs. And a lot of those alternatives do not require the use of these. Then we have the scenarios tab, and the scenarios tab is pretty simple. You have the folders, whether they're active or inactive, the actual created folders that you've made, and then under each automation here, you can see the folder that it belongs to, as well as how many operations it's used, how much data it's used, and the day that it was made. Then under the drop down, you can see moving to folder, cloning automations, deleting automations. You can see down here, the lightning bolt is for any automation that you have that is automatic or immediate start, and the timer here is for anything that is for regular intervals. So this automation is going to run every hour. This automation is going to run this time every day. You can see that what those automations are from here. The name of the automation and this gigantic plus button in the middle. So this is where you add your first module. So if I want to add Slack, I want to create a message in Slack, I will click on that. I would search Slack and I will create a message. This here, number 3, is how to schedule, and you can change the intervals upon which you want to be scheduling certain things just by this button here. Number 4 is to click to run once. This is good for test runs as well as for when you have to run things on demand. This here is your on and off button. This here is your save button. These are settings. These are blueprint settings, these 3 dots. So you can import and export blueprints, meaning you can save the actual text file that is the automation and then import it again if you need to use it again. And this here is to auto align or realign the automation. Now, before I dive into the automations themselves and we make one from scratch, I'm going to talk to you about the first principles of automation themselves. So all automations will start off with a trigger and certain actions will follow from it. So the trigger picks up the change and captures details of the change, and the actions are the subsequent activities that change other apps. So if you have a new email that lands in your inbox, that can be a trigger, which can lead to an action, like sending another email or adding a lead to a CRM. If you have a new contact that opts into your funnel, you can send a Slack message, add the lead to your CRM, and update the record in Airtable if you need to. New updated row in a Google Sheet, a bunch of different actions. New form field, a bunch of different actions. So you can see that there's one trigger, but there's multiple actions. That is rule number 1. One trigger, multiple actions, at least when you're talking in make.com terms. Actions themselves also come in 4 different forms. All actions come in these 4 forms, and they're represented by the acronym CRUD. Create, read, update, and delete. When you get into HTTP requests, you'll start to see things like get, post, put, patch, delete, that kind of stuff. It's the exact same thing. Create is a post request, read is a get request, update is a put or a patch request, and delete is obviously a delete request. And you can only do these 4 things in all automations. So when we're doing, and everything that we are doing, every single action is one of these 4. So we can now dive in and we're going to go in and build our very first automation. All right, so here we are. We have a automation here, which is blank. And the first thing that we're going to do is just talk about what we're going to build. So I have this form here, which is the test application form. And it's got a few fields here called what's your name, email, website, what makes you a fit for the role, and when do you want to start working. I'm going to use this to update the team, quote unquote, whenever a new application form has been received. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pick up the trigger and then we're going to create an action. And the trigger, because we're looking for changes in a specific app in order to carry out the automation, the trigger therefore would be the app where the action occurs at first, which is Google Forms. So we are going to add a Google Forms step here, and we're going to watch for responses. So if this is the first time you'd be opening this, then you would need to create a connection. So you click up here, add, and then you would type in the name of the connection, and then you would sign in with Google, and then it will take you through the Google login steps, put your username and password in, and then it will ask for permissions or scopes, and it will say Google Drive is looking to see, edit, create, delete files inside of your Google Drive. Click yes, and then it will save, and then once it saves, you will see this. So that is the connection there. And then for this, we just need to complete certain things inside of the automation in order to make it work. So I'm just going to do that right now. All right, so we have our form here, and we now want to choose where to start because we're just testing out the trigger to see where things will start. So I'm just going to pick this one here. And if I click run, it will go, and we can now see we have a response ID, a create time, a last submitted time, and an answers. So we have answers to all 5 of our questions, and you can see them nested deep within this here. So you can see that the email is this. We want to start working on this date. This is the name of the person. This makes us a fit, you know, this value here, this long text here, and our website is this. Sweet. So we have the information that we need. Now let's send an email. So if I click on Gmail, we want to click Gmail and then send an email. Pick the connection that we want. This is a Duff connection, so we want this one here. And then we want to add a subject, a content, and to. Now you can see that this has also popped up now too. So if I just type in email address, I'll just type my email address in here, and we say subject is new form fill, please do something with it. And then we have content here. So under here, we can drag in different results from what we have here. So we could just do that. Now, what I'm going to do is expand these out so that we get the right thing. We want the value here. So we need to find the name here. So if I type in value, this should pop up for all of them. So what's your name? That's the name here. What's your email? That's the email here, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do now is fill in this email with the information based on mapping these values, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So if you go in and you say, look at, if you can see how it looks right now. So when you click on one of these, it pops up with the information that you have just filled in. So as I'm typing this in, I'll just put briefly describe what makes you a fit. And then I'll click on value. I can click and drag it, or I can click on it and it will just work. And then when do you want to start? It will be this last one here. So with this information, I now have a complete email. So if I go back in here, and just because this trigger is a scheduled one, I need to choose the one that I want, and it will start from this one. So it will do all of these moving forwards. So if I click save now and click run once, what will happen is it will find the response and then it will send an email. And you can see here that this is the email. So name, email, website, briefly describe what makes you a fit, and then when to start. So you can see that this looks kind of ugly. Now, the way to make that look better would be to use a text to HTML converter, because these are Gmail stubs. These Gmail content pieces here use HTML tags, so you can put them together in a way that looks a little bit more clean. So I've just opened it up here inside of an online HTML editor. So now what I can do is I can, you know, press Control B to bolden these names, and I can separate these by line so that we have something that is usable. And if I click on edit the source, we can copy and paste this and put it back into the automation to get everything in the right format. So now you can see you've got, you know, strong, you got /P, you got P here. So if I was to do this again, you would see that it would come out in a very nice and clean formatted way. So if I click on save and then run, now the email looks like this. It now looks just like this. So we actually have a double space here, so we can just edit this HTML in order to make it look cleaner. But inside of this HTML, I actually want to direct you to what this looks like. So makes variables, which are what you see when you run something and you want to click and drag to fill certain things, have a particular naming structure. And you can see it for what it is right now, just by looking at how this is laid out. So it's a double curly bracket, a number, a dot, and then the key. Now, sometimes the key will be maybe it'll be an array, or it'll be something else. It'll be like multiple parts to it. But for the most part, if you want to call any value inside of any variable that you have, you can just type in the number, which is this right here. So this is number 14. You can type in the number 14 with a dot, and then you can put in the key, which is defined by what you see when you hover over these. So raw here is create time. So if I wanted create time, I could just type in create time just like that. And if I copy this and go back into the automation and I paste this back in, you'll see that it pops up the exact same way that it pops up here. So every single file or module, or sorry, every single variable inside of your make scenarios can be called in this way using this naming system. So that's food for thought for later. So we have an idea as to a very simple automation here. Now I want to show you routers. So what a router is a way for you to add a branch and do certain things. So let's say I wanted to do some if statements, or I wanted to say, hey, I want to do this and I want to do this, but I want to separate how it looks. You would use a router in this sense. And you can see that the router has a few things here. So you have first, second, and then you can add as many of these as you want. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., 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 etc. Now, if we go back here, we look at the wrench. If I click on the wrench, you can see a few things here. You can disable a route. You can select the entire branch. You can add another router. You can add another module, or you can add nodes. Or you can set up a filter, and that's what we're going to do here. So if I typed in, for example, the name equal to Sheni Salami, and I can say that this is for email only, I can then set up another filter on another arm and give it another condition. And if I give it that other condition, I can now create if-then statements. So it can say, if it is this, then we can do this. If it's not this, then we do this. And I can do that by doing the exact same thing that I just did below and just swapping out the text operator. So now value, instead of being equal to, I could say is not equal to. And now you can do this with, I usually do this with text operators as opposed to anything else. They're the most robust. And sometimes the numeric operators or the datetime operators, but from some of the other ones, I don't normally do so. There's Boolean operators, so true and false, you can use as well. And array length, I barely ever use anyways. But if I just go back in and I say not equal to, then we can send a Slack message. So if I went here and I clicked Slack and then I said create a message, now we basically open up the Slack create a message block, and this block will allow us to send any message in any channel or anything along those lines. So this is a bot that I've already connected inside of Slack. There's two ways to connect. You can connect via user or you can connect via bot. A user is just a person and a bot is, again, a bot. Now, to add a bot to a channel was another thing, which I've done in other videos that I have on my profile, but let's just take the one that I know is inside of everything. So we'll just select from an available list of channels, look for a private channel. The private channel that I want is going to be called automations. And then the text is going to be everything that we put inside of this. There's HTML in it. I don't really care. So we now have this response, which we are, you know what, let me not be lazy. I'll just take this. I'll copy this and then I'll drop that back in here and paste it. So now I have everything here separated by line and then move that over there. And now under the advanced settings inside of Slack, what you can do is you can do a bunch of things with regards to blocks with the block kit builder. That's very, very advanced. You can add a thread message ID, or you can do things like linking names, pass the message text, use things like markdown for if you want things to be bold or not. You can unfurl the media content, so it will pop up with the metadata of the links that you put in. So if you put a Loom video in, it will pop up with the little GIF image that comes below in every Slack message, which shows you the preview of the video. In this situation, I almost always default to these actions. So I don't reply, I don't broadcast a reply. I link names, and then I go no for pass message, yes to use markdown, and no for unfurling media content and primary text-based content. And then we have icon emojis and icon URLs and then usernames. So the username for this is going to be new application bot. So I'm going to click save now. So now we have a very simple automation, which once this runs, you'll see will go off in different directions. So if I click choose where to start and I choose this one here, so it will run this one, and then I run it, it will send an email because the name is Sheni Salami, and we said that the text operator is not equal to. But in this one, the text operator was equal to Sheni Salami. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my name and I'm going to run it again and show you how it looks. Okay, so here is the different version. So I've used Shen instead of Sheni. So I'm going to submit. And then from here, we are going to run the module, and it's going to take the newest result and it's going to push it to Slack because the name is not Sheni Salami, it's Shen Salami. So it's gone down this route. And what we can see is this right here, new application bot, name, email, website, briefly describe what makes you a fit, and then when to start. So that alone is how if statements work. This is enough for you to make basically any automation, because all you need to do to make most things work, especially when you're using things like Zapier and stuff like that, is you'll have a string of activities and then you may have a path. And that path is usually a yes, no, or it's something that you can use in multiple different ways. This is exactly how to do the same thing inside of make.com. You would use a router, you would put filters on the router, and then you would add your actions the same way that I have shown so far. So that alone is enough for you to do 80% of all of the work that needs to be done inside of make.com. The only things that I have missed out on purpose are things like webhooks, HTTP requests, text parsers, regex, and a bunch of other things, which I can go into and I have gone into on many other videos. But for now, this is enough for you to build any automation using very, very simple stuff inside of make.com. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you are looking for anything else with regards to, how to build certain automations that are going to be really effective for you moving forwards, like proposal generators or opt-ins for your funnels or CRM automations, how to generate contracts from scratch, look at my channel because I have a bunch of that stuff all over the gaff. So that's my course on how to use Make to fully automate your business in 2025. We helped Creo Social improve their editor team's efficiency and save countless hours. Stack saw a revenue increase from 50 to 80K per month using one of the CRMs that we built, and Epic Ads Lab have been able to save 10 hours a week or more, and Camillo's been able to use all of the time that he saved in building more videos on YouTube. So if you're an agency owner who's looking to increase their operational efficiency and do a bunch of other things like the stuff that we put in a lot of our other videos, there should be a link below to inquire with us to see if you qualify, see if you want to work with us. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.